right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, everybody treats people differently. I just, am one of those people who is unlucky sometimes, and, I fall into that category where, but I have to realize there are people that do like my work and enjoy it and respect it, and I'm welcome at those places, and those doors are open for me. So I have to go in that direction rather than try to fight for a position in a place where I'm not respected and I'm not wanted. And that was one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn being in this industry. I always wanted acceptance. I always wanted validation. I always wanted to break barriers and break doors. And it shouldn't be that difficult. It shouldn't be difficult. And, I've seen people get opportunities that don't work nearly as hard as me. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm just saying it to be honest. And it's unfortunate, but it also motivates me. And like I said, I now understand the value of going not where you're tolerated, but where you're celebrated. And I'm the type of person who has to learn the hard way. So I have to learn the hard way.
I love that you are turning a negative into a positive. I think a lot more people need to look at life in general like that when it comes to certain things, because they will take what this person said and then take it to heart and then maybe even give up on a dream or a passion they do have, as opposed to what you're doing is be like, okay, well, you're saying no, but that doesn't mean somebody else out there is going to say no also. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and make no mistake, I did want to give up, and I got to the point where I cried all day and all night. And I've had those moments, and, but luckily I have, good mentors in my corner who had to shake me out of it and basically say that's what they want you to do. That's why they do these things to you. So, it's one of those things where you got to just pick yourself up and keep going.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of keep going and doing what you're doing, tell us about the Sports as Told by a Girl.
So I'm a writer for sportsastoldbyagirl.com, and I mainly cover boxing for them. So I write for them, and the editor, her name is Ashley Binder. She does an incredible job running the blog, and she's absolutely amazing to work with. She's always been willing to fight for me to bust down doors, get access to certain events, and, she's worked really, really hard on that blog, and for it to be up still after all these years and for me to still be writing for her, she's absolutely, a writer's dream. I love writing for her. She also hires men too if you're interested in ever writing for her. So, she's incredible at what she does, and I just love her to death, and her blog is really good and well written, and we just talk about whatever we like.
That's genuinely kind of what it should be. I haven't thought about writing in a long time, so I might have to mull that over and then get back with you on that.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be great.
So you're also a San Antonio Spurs insider. With that, what happened this season?
So with the San Antonio Spurs, it wasn't the best season, and I'm sure you're well aware of that. They were pretty much tanking is what everybody's saying. And I don't think that the players were tanking because, I was in the locker room all the time with the players, and they didn't want to tank. They were angry that people celebrated their losses and wanted them to get win by on us. But the way that the team seemed to be working was in a sense that they were trying to tank, because the starting players like Keldon Johnson or Devin Vassell would be having a great game, and then you see them being pulled out in the fourth quarter, and then you wonder why. Are they practicing rotations right now? What's going on? So, they're fighting for that top pick for the lottery to get Wemby, and it's going to be exciting to see who they're going to end up with. But it was one of those seasons where I was one of only maybe 4 or 5 people in the locker room every game.
Jeez, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you're also a huge boxing fan. How did you get into that, and who are some of the people to keep an eye on in San Antonio?
So for me, I've been a boxing fan my whole life, and like I said, some of the best memories I had was being around my family and watching those fights. And some of my biggest breaks in this city, what kind of made me build my name, was that, like I said, remember I had told you that, Laura was the first person to let me cover a professional team because I couldn't do it.
Right.
And I was supposed to be at the time I was pitched to be a boxing girl. But when the big boxers would come to San Antonio, I wasn't able to interview them. I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't do anything. So I had to search around San Antonio to find boxers that I thought were going to be the next big thing, right? And there hadn't been a champion in San Antonio in 2 decades. But based upon my research and hard work, I discovered, well, I didn't discover, they discovered themselves, but I interviewed 2 gentlemen. One was named Mario Barrios, and the other was named Joshua Franco. Joshua Franco had just had his first loss right before I interviewed him. And then you have the undefeated Mario Barrios. And I brought them into the ESPN San Antonio studios. I did my homework, did my research, interviewed them. Boom. They end up becoming world champions about a year or 2 later. So I was one of those people who believed in them and had that access to them. So now to this day, I have great relationships with both of those boxers. And that helped catapult me to another stratosphere because I'm able to speak to them whenever I'd like. I built relationships with other boxers as well, and they've always been really, really kind to me, and the boxing community has always been open to me. So just seeing all the amazing talent here in San Antonio, you have Joshua's brother, Bam, is now a 2-division world champion, and these things happen out of nowhere. So there's so many talented boxers, and when I first started covering boxing here in San Antonio, I had no clue this was going to happen. So
Right.
it was pretty cool to see everything come into fruition. And I'm really happy about the way the San Antonio boxing landscape and culture is going. There's a lot of new promotions coming out in this city. So it's actually really fun to watch.
I love that. Yeah, boxing is, I think it's getting on the rise again, and I think that's a good thing considering it had a lull period for a while, and now, the big boom of boxing is happening once again.
I agree with you. I just interviewed Holly Holm about
I saw that.
about 3 weeks ago, and I had asked her because she's an 18-time boxing champion in addition to being a UFC champion. She's the only fighter in the world to have a championship belt in 2 different sports. And so I had asked her how she feels about the landscape of boxing, and she said the exact same thing you said. She said that it comes in waves in boxing. It comes and it goes, and now it's trending back upwards.
That's true. Now, how did you get into the wrestling world? Because you also are in the pro wrestling world as well.
Correct. So I'm a ring announcer, and Brandon Oliver from River City Wrestling I had built a relationship with him back in the day, and he saw my talent and he wanted to train me to become a ring announcer. So him and I developed that relationship, and from then on out, it was just, me ring announcing for them. I've been ring announcing for them for the past 5 or 6 years already, and it's been incredible. Yeah, it's been very, very fun, and I'm starting to do ring announcing for other wrestling companies as well. I really didn't have time to expand previously, but I do now, and I just love wrestling. I love how hard the athletes work in the ring, and I hate when people say that it's fake. It really drives me crazy.
Same. I always say, I'm like, it's predetermined. It's not fake. Go to a show and then tell me it's fake. Like,
well, being somebody who's in production for wrestling, I can tell you right now that sometimes it's not predetermined.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I know people don't believe me when I say that, but I'm being honest. Sometimes it is not predetermined. I will have the card in front of me, and they'll tell me who the winner is, and then by the time the match is over, the winner's somebody else. And I have to be on my P's and Q's and see, who's in the ring, because, we have 18-man matches, or, oh my God, those ones are really hard to call. But some of the ones where, like, you have to pay attention to who's in the ring, and sometimes, and it's not all the time. Most of the time, it is predetermined. But there are the rare ones where you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I've worked at a local one up here in the DFW area, and there have been times, literally mid-match, I'll write it out in the back, and then, by the time the match happens, again, it changes. Like, it'll change between the time the guy goes through the curtain and the time the last bell rings. So, yeah.
Exactly.
People that don't actually pay attention to the world of pro wrestling always have this weird stigma about it. And, you know, I'll just allow them to have it because I've loved wrestling for over 30 years now, and I don't see an end in sight. And I hope to work for more local companies as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be badass. And hopefully we, like, actually meet one day. That'd be cool. And also, too, I crack up when they say wrestling's fake, but
Yeah.
I cover boxing. I cover UFC. How many times have we seen a boxing match or UFC match where we screamed that it's fake because the judges didn't score what we wanted to see? So if wrestling's fake, then you have to call those other combat sports fake too, because we've seen people get robbed. We've seen people get rigged for political purposes. So at least we know what we're getting with wrestling. When it comes to boxing and UFC, you actually think you're watching something real, and sometimes it could be rigged. So which one is worse?
And then people get title shots that don't deserve it because they haven't beat anybody, or
or they bring in pay-per-view buys.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why I swear if Conor wins his next fight, he'll probably get a title shot, which again makes no sense. Now, of all the different personalities you've come across over the years, who are some of them that you kind of fangirled out over?
I had a real fangirl moment when I didn't meet him. I just kind of like had him autograph my book. Stephen A. Smith, I like had an out-of-body experience. I know, it's crazy. Everybody always like, of all people, seriously? But I had an out-of-body experience. I was like, I read their book on the plane. You inspired me. I was like, God. It was like a real fangirl moment. And then I would say the other person I had a fangirl moment on is Peanut Tillman, a former player for the Chicago Bears, two-time All-Pro Bowler. And watching the Chicago Bears is what really got me into football. That team that Peanut Tillman was on. And meeting him in person, because there was a couple of Bears players at the Super Bowl that day from that team. And I'm not going to say any names, but some of them were just kind of standoffish, which is understandable because everybody's trying to talk to you, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
But Peanut gave me his time. He talked to me like a human being, and I literally just could not believe how humble and kind and gracious he was to me. So as soon as I had finished the interview, I told him thank you, and he just had a couple more words to say to me, and then I just started crying in front of him. Wow. I just started crying. Like, he brought me to tears because, like, I felt like this was a full circle moment for my life. Like, I, was like, I mean, it'd be like the same if I met Michael Jordan, because I loved basketball back then. But, I mean, this is about as close as it gets for me. I fell in love with football because of this team, and I love this player, and for him to be just as amazing in person as you thought he would be, it just brought me to tears.
It is so great when you meet people. Well, they always say don't meet your idols because you'll be disappointed, but then when you do and they're actually like as cool as, or even cooler than, you would imagine, it just makes life so much better. And, it helps you keep dreaming and wanting to meet more of your idols because you just obviously hope that they're all as cool as you imagine they are.
I totally agree with you because, that saying is true because, I've met people that are not that nice, which is okay because everybody has a right to feel. I mean, people have bad days. It's nothing that you can't judge people. But it's a bit of a letdown. Because you're looking forward to that. But, when you finally meet somebody, like you said, that just is everything you imagined and then some, it's amazing.
Yes. Now, I have a segment on the show. I call it the 5 count. I have 5 questions. Just answer as quick as possible.
Okay.
Number 1, how do you take your coffee?
How do I take my what?
Coffee.
Oh, iced mocha latte, no whipped cream, and oat milk.
There we go. If you owned a liquor company, brewery, winery, or coffee shop, which one would you own and what would the name be?
I would own a liquor store on the east side. It'd be called CT Liquor More.
What would your last meal be?
My last meal? Oh, that's a great one. It would have to be,